come make this delicious jollof rice with me. Here are the ingredients you need. We're going to start off with some grapeseed oil, which is great for high heat. Here we have some curry, not chicken bouillon, or you could use better than bouillon, the vegetable base, bay leaves, coriander, that's 1 tablespoon, but you can use how much you like, and your seasonings of choice. This is a seasoning blend that I've created myself. If you want more details about that seasoning blend, go back into my channel. I give you details about how to make this seasoning. But here we go. We're going to start by chopping up our onions, peppers, and tomatoes. Now, a key to this recipe is to remember to keep all of your vegetable scraps to the side. Do not throw them in the garbage, okay? So as you're cutting things up, just put all of the scraps to the side because you're going to use them a little bit later. Now you want to cut these up a decent size. It doesn't have to be like super small. You're cutting them up because we're going to roast them. I roast them in my air fryer, so it doesn't take that long, about 15 minutes, and my vegetables are perfect. But if you're using an oven, it may take you somewhere between 30 to 40 minutes to get them roasted properly. You can use them not being roasted, but you're not going to get that same flavor. You're not going to get that real Jollaf effect. So I definitely recommend roasting your onions and peppers. Now I do use a white onion or a regular onion, whatever you want to call it, for the vegetables that I'm going to roast. However, make sure you have a red onion as well. That is very important. They do give off a different flavor, and that flavor, again, is very necessary for this jollof rice. When you're slicing and cutting your tomato, make sure you take the seeds out. The seeds are not necessary to be roasted. It just makes it really icky and slimy for me. That's just my personal preference. But if you like the seeds, hey, go ahead, do what you do. But I just add them to my scrap pile and cut them off really nicely. Here you'll see we're adding our scraps into at least 2 cups of water. And we're going to go ahead and make our own homemade vegetable stock. We're going to use this for our jollof rice. You can buy vegetable stock. You see I do have some bouillons that I use as well. But there's nothing better than creating your own vegetable stock. It has a richness and a taste that is unmatched. So here you see I'm adding all of the chopped onions and peppers that I'm going to roast onto a parchment paper. Now go ahead and chop up that red onion that we talked about earlier. Chop it up nicely. You can make it really fine. I like to leave mine a little bit chunky because I do like the texture and the flavor of onions in my rice. So again, chop it to your liking. This is your rice. You and your people gotta eat it. So make sure it's something that you guys are going to enjoy. In a really large pot, we are going to add our grapeseed oil. We're using enough just to coat the bottom of the pan. You're not trying to fry the onions. You're trying to saute them. So you don't need a whole lot of oil, okay? Make sure you remember that. Now we're going to add in our onions And we're going to cook them down until they're as translucent as possible. Remember, these are red onions, so they're not going to be translucent like the other ones. But you'll start to smell and see when they look like they're cooked down enough. Now that our vegetables that we're roasting are done, we're going to add in a few cloves of garlic and our roasted vegetables into the blender. I like to add a little bit of curry and the coriander into this mix, but hey, you can add that into the pot if you like. You need to have something to allow the blend to mix. You know, you need some type of liquid or oil, so I add in some of the vegetable stock that I previously made. And here you can see that I'm stirring the onions to make sure that they're cooking down well, and they look really, really good from my end. Now we're going to add in our tomato paste. I added in about 3 tablespoons. Yeah, I was really trying to dump that, just didn't work well. Don't be me. Get yourself a spoon. But I added in about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, and I stirred that in. It definitely takes some time to blend the tomato paste in with the oil and the onions. Jollaf rice is a labor of love, so if you're looking for a quick 1, 2, 3 meal, this ain't it, baby. This really is not it. Now look at that. That looks delicious. It's blended down perfectly. It's nice and smooth. Yeah, this is when I added in some of the coriander and I added in the curry. I didn't do it in the very beginning, but like I told you, I like to mix that in and blend it again. This is just me adding in a few tablespoons of my seasoning blend. Again, if you want the ingredients to that seasoning blend, go back onto my page. You'll be able to see it. And now we're going to add in our seasoning that we just blended, all those delicious roasted vegetables, the peppers and the onions. We're going to add that to our tomato paste and onion blend. And stir, stir, stir. I cannot tell you how important it is to keep stirring this. You don't want it to get clumpy. You don't want it to burn or stick to the sides. Remember to stir it frequently and mix in all of those delicious flavors together. You want them to create a beautiful harmony. You don't want it to be a burnt tomato paste mix. So remember to stir, stir, stir. Unfortunately, my supermarket was out of real Scotch bonnets. I know. So I had to go ahead and use the old school sauce, but it'll give it the same effect. It's not as bad. And to be honest, my kids don't really like pepper like that, so this is a way that I can control the heat a little bit better. So next I'm going to put on the top and let this cook down a little bit for like 5 to 7 minutes, not much more, because if you do what I did and let it sit for 10 minutes, as you can see, it started to get a little bit burnt on the bottom, but it was still delicious, I promise you. That just gave it some texture, some flavor, and a little bit of character. All right? Now I'm adding in some bay leaves, and on these bay leaves, I've actually taken an edible marker and written in some intentions and things that I'd like for my family, you know, peace and happiness and joy. That's the way I incorporate some of my root work into my meals. So that's just a quick tip for you guys, for everybody who stayed this long. Now you can figure out how to add in some of your own intention and magic into the meals that you cook for your family. Okay, so I'm gonna just speed this up because it took a little while to get this to reduce down the way I wanted it. After about 15 to 20 minutes, we're gonna add in some of our vegetable stock. Do you see how beautiful the color is of that stock? It's really amazing. We're gonna mix that in. You know, you don't wanna make it too watery because you don't want sticky, chewy rice. You really want this rice to have a nice, dense, beautiful texture to it. So this is what you want your blend to look like. Really nice, thick, but it just still has some type of liquidy texture to it so that the rice has some type of liquid to cook in, right? On the side, you're gonna make sure that you took between 3 to 4 cups of rice and rinsed it minimum 3 times to make sure you got all of the starch out of it. And now we're gonna add in our rice to this mixture. Just showing you how clean my rice looks. Yes, I'm gonna make sure I get every little grain out of there. Rice is expensive, y'all know. Now, let's stir. You're going to mix this in, mix the rice all the way in. Make sure you get as much of the rice covered by this beautiful sauce as you can. Oh, I almost forgot. I did add in like 1 or 2 sprigs of thyme. So that's what you see on top of the rice. Now you're going to cover your rice with either parchment paper or foil. I'm going to use parchment because I'm not going to waste the parchment I use to roast the onions and pepper. Here I'm just checking to make sure that I don't need to add any more vegetable stock. And baby, this is looking really good. As you can see, it's not sticky, it's very fluffy. It's got a really nice look and I wish you could smell it. It smells amazing in this house right now. My kids are like badgering me for dinner. And voila, we're done. Hope you enjoyed.